What's going on, everybody? It's the one and only Q here from Retro Q Gaming, and well, you know how I've always said the 8th generation of consoles, the Xbox One, the PS4, and the Wii U, that's right, they're all the same generation. The Switch is actually the first 9th generation home console. But anyway, remember how I've always said that the 8th generation is the worst generation in gaming? Mainly because, well, there's only really a very, very select handful of top tier games throughout the entire generation. And of course, it's helped the proliferation of awful business practices like DLC, Season Pass, cut content from games, delays, broken games, patches coming out for 6 months after just to try and fix a rushed product. Well, there's one extra one that I really haven't included in all of this, but it's reached, hell, a little bit of a fever pitch as of today, just a few moments ago. So, a little while ago, Capcom did their latest Resident Evil showcase. They announced a couple of extra things, showed off a couple of extra things in there as well, including the new RE-verse multiplayer mode included with Resident Evil 8. They also went on and showed a little bit of the new Netflix CG series. But the big thing I want to talk about ties in directly with why the 8th generation of consoles is the worst generation ever. Now, it's because of one specific thing. Actually, it's not really one specific thing, but in this case, we're linking it to one specific thing. It's the what I can only call and only describe correctly as the absolute fetishization of cross generation games. Now, I'm not saying cross generation games from the company's standpoint. Before we go any further, I do want to say I completely understand why a company would do so. They don't want to alienate 150 million units of sales. So, for example, if something is going to release on Xbox One, PS4, PS5, Xbox Series S, and PC, if they cut out last generation, that's about 150 million units gone right there, because you're looking at about 45 million for the Xbox One, which completely flopped, and you're looking at over 100 million for the PlayStation 4. So naturally, they don't want to cut out that huge portion of sales. So from a business standpoint, I completely understand it. But we're not talking about the business standpoint for this particular topic and point we're making. It's the weird fetishization from the gamers that everything must be cross-platform and nothing will hold anything back. It's really come from a very strange point where, hell, over the last maybe 5 years or so, I guess it would be 5 or 6 years, when Phil Spencer and whoever on the Sony side came in, and they kept saying, oh, don't worry, scalability is a thing. Old generation hardware will never hold anything back because everything scales. But then we've seen perfect instances where this isn't true. We've seen from first party stuff where this isn't true. We've heard from both Sony and Microsoft where this isn't true. We've heard from third party developers where this isn't true. Because let's face it, this isn't true. But the big weird thing I have in this whole situation is that this is the first real generation where all the fucking weirdos out there are insisting games should be cross generation and that it's not going to hold anything back and that there will be no advancement. Oh, what could they do? What could they put in? It's new, am I right? Yeah, that's right. That's why they didn't. That's why they swapped over and made Resident Evil 4 after Resident Evil 3 and Code Veronica and whatnot. Actually, you know what? I can't even remember which came first. I believe Code Veronica came first. But you get the point. Why change anything on new generation? Resident Evil 3, Resident Evil Code Veronica, the same style essentially, but then they still went and changed and made something different with Resident Evil 4. And then you go on to the next generation and see how that changed and all as well. Big oof there, lads. Big oof there. But this is the absolute worst generation for it. I don't remember anyone in school back in the day saying, oh yeah, Mario 64 is dope. I wish it came out on the Super Nintendo. That's fucking idiocy. It's the same. It went the exact same going forward as well. It's like, oh, Halo 3, this is boss. I wish this came out on the original OG Xbox. No. There was a very, very small selection of it back at the launch of the 8th generation, when a couple of things came to Xbox One and all as well. Some people were demanding stuff be cross-generation and all, but most people weren't, because they could look at Dead Rising 3, they could look at Rise Son of Rome, and hell, I don't know whatever else was in there too. I can't even remember at this point. But you didn't have people asking for knack on the PlayStation 2 or PlayStation 3. You didn't have people asking for, well, Dead Rising, because let's face it, look at Dead Rising 2 compared to Dead Rising 3. But let's go back on topic for just a second here. It was announced today in the Resident Evil showcase that despite initially only being announced for PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series MES consoles and PC, that now Resident Evil 8 will be coming to Xbox One and PS4. All of these are going to launch on May 7th, 2021. Now, of course, a couple of months ago, when this was all revealed, and, well, it was revealed to, at the time, be current generation only, that had many people very, very happy. One, we were getting huge, massive improvements across the board. We would have been getting visual improvements, we would have been getting texture, environmental improvements, geometry improvements, not to mention fundamental game design changes, because you can run on higher-end GPUs, completely more sophisticated and more complex by leagues, CPUs, and of course, solid-state drives. Now it turns out that that is no longer the case, and we have a completely compromised game. Now, someone is going to say the obvious thing at the moment, and that is, oh, but Q, it's just basically Resident Evil 7, or 7.2, or 7.5. Yeah, that's a good thing to an extent. Resident Evil 7 was a good enough game, but I wanted more, because when this was shown to us, when we were first teased with all this, they showed us a little bit, they told us a little bit, and they said next gen. Well, at the time it was next gen, now it's current gen. But they said PlayStation 5, Xbox Series MES, and PC. So even though we didn't know anything about the game, we could hope they could surprise us with something new, something different, something that could fundamentally not be done on the previous generation. Now, it turns out we've had all that taken away, we were lied to, and we got fucking destroyed for it. So yes, I am a bit low-key salty that they first purposely decided to not tell us that it was, I guess, last generation only, or last generation included. So I'm a little bit salty that they purposely lied by omission on that front. But the really weird thing I just want to put out there is the complete, absolute insanity and absurdity of the people. The gamers. So what if you can't get a PlayStation 5 now? If they launch it only on current generation and PC, it's still going to be the same game. A year from now, 2 years from now, whenever it is you get your PlayStation 5, your Xbox Series MES, or your RTX 3090. Let's face it, no one's cool enough to get a 3090 but me. So your 3080, maybe your 3070, or whatever it is you plebeians deal with. But now, the point is, maybe it's because you're impatient, maybe you're impulsive, maybe you need instant gratification, that you're advocating for game design to not change yet, and deliver an overall worse experience in these games you wish to be held back. Be it for you to play them yourself, or just for bullshit reasons because you corporate slave for these companies. But now 150 million people can play it instead of 5 or 6 million, bro. You're still advocating for a worse game and worse product. Get the fuck out of here.